Hello, and welcome to Presence Practice with Poonam and Parker. Hey, Poonam.
Hello, Parker.
Hello.
Hello.
We are going to do a topic from Loving Kindness entitled, You Don't Have to Get Anything Right. I think that there's a thread of this through every single talk I've ever seen Eckhart do. You don't have to get anything right, not on the horizontal nor the vertical dimension. You don't have to get anything right. All we need to do is notice and bring our attention as often as we need to without any additional story making. And we don't need to get anything right. And right is subjective because it's all right. Everything is right. So it's even if we were to look at it and we would call something a mistake, something has failed, we've failed, we haven't kept our consciousness, right? That's okay. And all we need to do is notice and bring ourselves back into the present moment and notice. We can see that it was story making, or we could see it's too much future or past. And just notice. And sometimes we can see sort of where it started. So we may have been using a good, awake and present, conscious thinking mind who is wise thoughts were coming in to solve a problem. And then we got so deep into the problem that we couldn't sense the stillness anymore. And so the story making mind takes over and tells us about what it is that we're doing or reminds us of a similar instance from the past or something in the future that's uncertain. And now we have an awful lot of reactivity in our bodies. And all we need to do is notice. And we haven't done anything wrong. And we're all okay. And we can be gentle with ourselves and other people. If there's heavy unconsciousness, let's say you're in a situation and there's nowhere to go, and you're not, or even if there is somewhere to go, if there's any impulse to flee, I want to encourage just standing there with that feeling of wanting to get away from heavy unconsciousness, for instance, because it can draw us in, or we could have residual. Our thoughts don't even need to be our own. You can be picking something up from someone on the street. That's how the the way we're evolving today is to continually bring ourselves back into the present moment and see that it's just story making that made something good or bad or right or wrong. It's the paradox. On the horizontal, it may look like a setback or a failure, but on the vertical dimension, it's all success all the way. What about these people that are in terrible situations that are being victim abused? Well, on in one dimension, it's their story, it's their karma that's unfolding for them, and just like we suffered unnecessarily, it would seem, but it was necessary. That's the paradox. And to allow this to happen, and if we stay in our center, then if there's any action to be taken to be of service in this world, then it's coming from this clear place. We're not doing anything wrong if we don't do something about it. Giving it our clear attention, our compassionate heart sometimes is enough when we see it out in the world. So some balance. But we're going to do a video on politics, and I think that this very nicely folds into that topic. So I don't want to go too far off topic here. What I want to do is to say, be gentle. If there's a judging voice, it's doing terrible things to you and then to the world. We just leave people and situations alone, starting with ourselves. And then it's a very natural and authentic expression in the world. And we leave other people alone. I've seen some harshness sometimes in the spiritual community. We bring the unconsciousness in there and we become each other's sadhanas. And so that's not wrong either. But we can also clear that space too. You don't have to get a concept at all. It's very simple what we're doing here. Awakening Christ consciousness in humanity, in each of us. And it's in and out, unconscious, conscious. It just becomes less unconscious. So the edges come off, the deep. You've probably already noticed it in yourself, as I've noticed it in myself, and I know you have too, Poonam, which is this up and down, and then there's the depth of it, like any violence, like the heavy violence, that's gone. It doesn't even arise, and we accept whatever is still there. There's no great pinnacle of spiritual uh, uh, knowledge that's going to bring us any closer to waking up. It's the simplicity of stillness and accepting the present moment exactly as it is, and to be sitting in our situations and recognizing that these challenges, any challenge, will be brought to us again and again, and we can choose gratitude. We could choose gratitude. So I encourage a meditation and breathwork practice. Yeah, I also want to send lots of love and support to anybody that has a heavy pattern of self-flogging, of guilt and shame. Gentle, gentle as we go. Hey, Poonam, look at us in our busy shirts today, both of us wearing totally like artwork, right?
As far as this topic is concerned, um, the wanting to be right, right? Um, what brings up in my mind is Eckhart's quote of a Zen master, cease to cherish opinions, right? One of the things that we, once we come to that level of presence is all that matters, everything is an opinion.
Yes, the topic is you don't have to get anything right.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So, and getting it right implies an opinion that
Yeah.
I'm going to get attached to, whether it is right or wrong, right?
Would you
So,
say these are based on beliefs that people may have sitting in their unconscious about perfection? Like, what is perfection?
so having that ability from presence to say, I'm going to cease to cherish that opinion, let it go, drop it. I don't need to, I don't watch the news, so I have no opinion about what is one. I don't even know if a tornado is going to hit my city because I'm not watching the news. So I have no opinions about the weather, whether what's happening every day in everyday life. No opinion. And that reduces a lot of mental chatter,
Yeah.
because the ego wants, like what he says, it's like a dog that wants to keep chewing a bone. So
Yes.
every righteousness, even if we feel that that is the moral stance that we should be taking as regards to whatever the situation may be, it's not needed. Even that moral stance is not needed,
Yes, exactly.
because
Beautiful.
it's a deviation from pure consciousness, if somebody knows and once we experience the preciousness of presence, that in that 0 point, it's like honey like sweetness. That's all that is needed. Nothing else is needed.
Yes.
Everything else is too much.
Yes. Yes. Beautifully said. That's nice that you hit on the point of, so you don't have to get anything right. Neither does anybody else. Right? And let's be kind to each other.
And when we get into that attachment of I need to get it right or the other person has to be right, there's always a constant ego's superiority of I
Yeah.
am right, he's not, kind of like somebody is always less than, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday I was watching Oprah's a New Earth webcast. Like she had done a session with her studio audience, right?
Yes.
At the end of the a New Earth webcast,
Mhm.
and one of the attendees or Skype audience members was saying, "I no longer want to be any than anyone else.
Yes.
You know, the greater than, less than, the greater, or
Yes. Nice.
that was so sweet. I don't want to be any than anybody else. She had a weight issue, and she no longer, I think because in the Western world, it's like very, the predominant thought pattern of the collective consciousness is every woman has to be thin. And she was like, I no longer have to be thinner than another person. The comparison goes away, right?
Yes, or others. I've seen these patterns, the vanity patterns show up in many, many different ways. I've seen it also in myself, right? So, and what a blessing it is, because I think that that idea of being thin was something from like the 90s. It was a heavy pattern of people starving themselves. And these new generation of adults that are coming up right now said no, all of it is beautiful, all of it. And it's pervasive in our culture, this this kindness and leaving things alone. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. um but it's a belief, right? It's a cultural belief, and the more present we become, the more in touch we come, we move into whatever expresses through us. And it's never a lower vibration. It's never a vibration that uh, if you can very clearly hear a harsh voice, it's not the normal voice anymore. And so I do like to keep pointing at us and not out there, right? If we're pointing out there at somebody else, right, then then we're creating even more anxiety and funkiness and karma and all this in the world, and we could just drop it. Drop the whole thing. Yeah.
And there's nothing more precious than the experience of presence.
Yeah.
That's all that is needed. Yesterday, to give a example, yesterday I went from, okay, I'm going to post on Facebook, then post videos from Facebook, work on my book a little bit, to my chores, to I need to pick up dinner for my son's birthday. It wasn't until 10 that I got quiet time, 10 p.m. my time.
Mm,
I still, the joy of being is the joy of being conscious. I said, even if it's 10 p.m., I'm sitting in meditation.
nice. Well, for me, I do a seated meditation, and then what I do throughout the day, and under, because right now there's a lot of changes around me and a lot of additional responsibilities in in the horizontal story as it unfolds. um, and there's a stillness and a silence underneath all activity, And so I also find that having spaces throughout the day where I do absolutely nothing but just be, and I'm not trying to be more present. I just want to perceive things exactly as they are and not where I'm focused from. And that's like an elastic band for people. It continues to, that space continues to come in throughout the day so that you can be very, very active. And we are the monks out in the world, right? It's the, we went through as a humanity needing to go and sit in huts, and that's still beneficial. I see it a lot. Uh, but to live there forever and not be challenged in the real world, it was grounding like whole areas, these groups of people just meditating and virtually nothing else. And right, but this has become uh, pervasive, and what a beautiful gift it is. All of the violence we didn't realize on this planet because because of that kind of peacefulness running through so many people throughout the world now.
That's great wisdom, Parker. That even if you're posting on Facebook, you're experiencing your presence while you're posting on Facebook, or when you're uploading the video, experience your presence, right? So the stillness is always there in the background, even though you're going through the activity. Then, of course, the dedicated sit down in meditation.
Then
So
everything's done in joy. It's done,
very much so.
it's not done in, there's no reactivity. And I have made a vow about this reactivity. If it comes in me, to sit, to see it, and to see the story making or thought patterns that brought that reactivity, and do nothing, do nothing. That is what we're doing, and that is what is present in this moment, and we're going to sit with it. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, this isn't like a trudging journey. When am I going to be awakened? God, it's not happening yet, right? It's the beauty of fully accepting what is, and 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 gentleness, such gentleness with what we see when we come up, so that when we, so a new way of being with the reactivity becomes attractive to be in. We have veered way off course in this video, but I don't care. It's lovely. I love chatting with you and hearing your wisdom and whatever's leaving my mouth too. And so thank you, Poonam.
Thank you, Parker.